The next 4 weeks, I'm going to be trying to turn a rock that looks like this into a beautiful specimen that looks like this. Oh, you better believe this is a very new process to both myself and Fern. The way you turn interesting, yet not exactly pretty rocks like this, into glistening pink jewels, just like this one, is by putting them in a tumbler with a whole series of grits. This is just sandpaper without the paper. And it takes a fair amount of time. This process is going to take me 4 weeks if everything goes smoothly. These are the rocks we're going to be tumbling. All of these are pieces of jasper. The colors are dictated by what kind of other minerals are associated with the jasper. Basically, jasper is a quartz mixture that has things like magnesium oxide in it, and that turns it black, like this piece. Down here we have a selection of fugly rocks and agates. If I actually manage to do this correctly, this is going to look really cool. It is my first time doing rocks. We're learning together. All of these go in there. I know this is not very full. They suggest having the tumbler about 2/3 full, but I don't have that many rocks at the moment. I've got to go out and look for more. These are our beads. The one thing the instructions were clear on was that I need about one of these for every 2/3 of a barrel here. I have about 1/3 of that, so I'm going to use half of one of these. I was really hoping there was going to be a nice seal to peel back there. Okay, so we're going with like a half, not what I said. The last step is water. Apparently we want it to about the top of the rocks here. Just check there's no leaks. Leaks would be bad. That's a fun looking cross section. This is my tumbler. That's a timer for an hour, but this has to run for a week on the first grit. So we're just going to put it on a speed of 1. And then we're going to turn it on. As it tumbles, the grit is going to move around those rocks and slowly but surely wear them down. And then we go through each one of these grits and a polishing agent behind me 1 week at a time. Other than just filling up space in that barrel, those plastic beads also insulate the rocks from chipping each other, and they also force the grit into any little hole that might be in the rock, helping to get a more even polish over the whole stone.
1 eternity later.
It's been 4 days, and even though this is probably going to go for 7, they say to stop these barrels, check the rocks, and see how much you've removed, because you don't want to over-remove material. If you under-remove it, you can always put it back in. If you over-remove it, I ain't gluing powder back onto the rock. To be able to see the rocks, we're going to drain everything to this gold pan, and then if we need to regrind, we can tip everything straight back in here. Look at that one! Wow! Alright, this is a piece of jasper that looks like a jawbreaker. Huh! It has been 6.5 days, and our rocks have had quite the dramatic change. You can clearly see all the sharp edges have been taken away, and just look at the structure in that amazing agate. I'm not going to show you the other 2 grits until we get to the polishing stage, because I think that is where we're going to see the most significant difference.
2,000 years later.
The polishing stage. At least I think that's what we're up to. I have already cleaned off all of the grit and made sure these stones don't have any of it left on them. And when they're wet, some of these stones are looking spec-freaking-tacular. This is my favorite. It's a very simple piece of jasper, but I love those bands in it. Obviously, these aren't cut. These just went in the shape they were, and there's still some rough edges, but we're also getting some of the natural cracks developing that were already in the rock. And for that reason, I didn't want to keep going with the grits. I wanted to move on to the polishing stage just to make sure that I didn't further damage any stones. Bands on bands on bands. That is a piece of art. I hope this polishes up well. Water just barely covering the stones. After working my way through all them, we're up to the polisher. This stuff. Looking exactly like a vanilla milkshake. And while that does its thing, I just want to mention that I took this big bad boy out because I think it might have been responsible for damaging some of the stones.
A few hours later.
In total, we ran the rocks through 4 stages at roughly 5 days each, or about 125 hours per stage. Meaning it took 500 hours to get these rocks to this stage. I learned a whole lot doing this, and I can see where I need to make improvements, and I'm looking forward to trying it again. This piece of Jasper needed a little bit longer in the 600 grit. That would have got a nice fine polish on all of these surfaces. You can actually see some of that glossy polish I was looking for on the corners. This is one of my favorite rocks. I managed to get a nice polish on this one, and I think it looks beautiful. When I put this in the tumbler, I didn't even know it was a piece of banded Jasper. Even though there is a big fracture down the side of it, I still think that is really cool. And I definitely learned to size my materials. You can see some fractures in these rocks, which unfortunately came from the tumbler itself. That's where bigger rocks have smashed into smaller rocks, causing those breaks. So there you go, my first ever attempt at rock tumbling. How do you think I went? Until next time, please give your dog a big scratch behind the ears for me. Peace, and I'm out.